One
Yep.
of the things that I've been, I guess I want to touch on just for people to have some practical takeaways from this joint maintenance aspect of the conversation. As far as functional range conditioning goes, one of the things that I found that they really emphasize is there's a lot of movement of scapula independently of other joints. So isolate the scapular movement. They'll isolate the thoracic spine movement, and they'll isolate the hip movement. And then, so that's wonderful to be able to and as a personal trainer, I've noticed that a lot of people will struggle, and I do mean struggle, to move these parts of their bodies at all consciously at first. So if I have somebody try to move just their shoulder blade, just try to move the thoracic spine, if they have not had a movement practice, they've been moving improperly, boy, are they going to compensate at first.
The whole thing starts moving, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
I think that is truly, if you get nothing else from functional range conditioning, just the ability to articulate those segments of your body is really valuable. And then to draw one last thing. Oh, you got a question. I can tell.
Yeah, I got one quick question. I know that I know that the pandemic has changed how we operate a little bit. And I know that you weren't always real big on being remote with your clients,
Mhm.
but is this the kind of thing where if somebody was just really struggling with understanding it, like they could get on video with you and you could help them take a look at their joint movement?
Absolutely. Yeah. This
Okay.
is a huge part of my business now.
If somebody needs help with that, contact Kyle
Cool.
and he will help you.
Absolutely. Um, Draw on one last thing from Dr. Sarman. It seems to me that her, at least at this point in my sort of immersion in her work, it seems to me that her answer to this has to do with muscle recruitment sequences. And just to make that even easier, if you are to bend over to lower the elevation of your torso to grab something, which muscles fire first to enact that movement is important. So if ideally you stabilize first. Your stabilizers fire before your prime movers. So if I bend over to pick something up, ideally my spine will brace itself first, and then my hips will articulate into flexion to lower the elevation of my torso. So that would be like an optimal movement pattern that occurs every day. And in the fitness world, we think of that as a hip hinge. However, if my entire life I have bent over by not stabilizing my lumbar spine and just flexing my lumbar spine and then flexing at the hips later, that muscle firing sequence is going to predispose me to pain and discomfort.
Yes.
So as a part of my daily mobility practice, I'm also just getting some repetitions in on fundamental human movement patterns that ideally, if I'm having a good day and I'm doing it properly, will fire my muscles in the appropriate sequence, because I can have the most articulating joints in the world, but if I'm not stabilizing the correct parts of the correct segments and moving the correct segments when I go to throw that ball, none of that stuff is going to translate, right? So we want our mobility to be functional, and the best way to do that is to be able to articulate joints independently and then integrate them into the movement patterns that we're likely to use, that all humans use daily.